Welcome to the Growth Arena podcast, where we'll dive deeper together in the arena of personal growth, mindset, and finding happiness in the everyday grind. I'm your host, Dr. Kaan Celebi, entrepreneur, physical therapist, father, husband, and of course, relentless explorer of what it takes to thrive in life. Episode 43, Responsibility of Freedom. Welcome back to the Growth Arena. Last week, we touched on Rome and how it was built in a day and it's still evolving. And the quote that I love from that episode is better not done. When touching on growth, it all starts with two things, and that's one is declaring, clarifying, and making a decision of your direction and committing to the process, committing to the evolution, committing to better, not done. But once you started building your Rome, once you've created the structure, well, what comes next? The answer is freedom. And with freedom comes responsibility. We all want freedom. We all wish for freedom. We all think about it, talk about it, dream about it. But there is a big responsibility that comes with it. Because real growth isn't just about having clarity. It's about owning what you do with that clarity. And that's what today's excerpt is all about. This is titled, Freedom is Possible. And yet, many of us don't feel that way. Perhaps it's because the systems around us are optimized around obedience. Perhaps it's because freedom is frightening. Freedom comes with responsibility, and so we deny our agency. We walk away from it instead of using it. This freedom comes with choices. The alternatives are everywhere we look and without a blueprint. The easiest thing to do is stay still, to embrace being stuck, to whine instead of lead. In fact, we each have more power than we often admit. So let's unpack that a little bit because there is a lot in there. Let's start with this truth. Freedom sounds great until it asks something of you. So to tie this a little bit more to real life, the freedom is to start your own business. It means owning every mistake. The freedom to live by your own values means you can't hide behind anyone else's excuses. So again, touching on last week, once you declare this is Rome, the responsibility is now yours to build it. Many people don't actually want freedom. They talk about it, they seek it, they dream about it, but what they really want is permission. Permission gives comfort. Freedom gives choice. And choice is scary because it demands accountability. When you have true freedom, when you have true control of your choices, your actions, and what you do and how you choose to live your life, it falls on you. Nobody tells you what time to show up to work. Nobody tells you how long to stay there. Nobody tells you what projects to do. Nobody tells you how to make money. Nobody makes those decisions for you. When you have true freedom, the choices are yours. But as I said, those choices, they come with accountability, because if you don't take the right actions, if you don't make the right choices, well, it could be a deep, dark path. And I think that's what scares a lot of people, especially when taking on individual ventures. But at the end of the day, we have more power than we think. Deep down, you know it, I know it, you do believe in yourself in some capacity. You believe you're made for more. And that's what's worth pulling out. When you talk about the word agency, it means the ability to act with intention. No one is coming to save you. And when you first think about that line, it's scary. You know, we grow up from toddlers to children to adolescents, teenagers, high school, college, and beyond. And at some point, we make that transition to adulthood. At some point, we make that transition to being a man or a woman of our own choosing, of our own identity, of our own path. But deep down, a lot of us still could feel like children, could feel like somebody can save me, somebody will save me, whether that's your parents or your boss or your teacher or your coach. We always feel like we have that safety net. So when we look at a line of no one is coming to save you, it could sound really scary. But in actuality, that's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate. When we stop finger pointing, when we stop blaming, when we stop thinking about how crappy our circumstances are, and we start owning our process, well, that changes everything. And I'm talking about no matter what. I know we've all been dealt different cards in life, and some better than others. But even those who've had the poorest of upbringings and weren't coddled or weren't washed over, didn't have a safety net, sometimes those people are some of the most successful people out there, and vice versa, right? Some people who were coddled or were given a gift life can be very successful and can also go down a worse path. But it all comes down to this: owning your story, owning your process. It changes everything. And that's the power of agency. I want to go into one specific line of that excerpt now and just dig in a little bit. Seth Godin says, the systems around us are optimized around obedience. Society, the world, our upbringing, well, sometimes what it teaches us is to wait for direction. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to do it? How much of it? Historically, as school has been, it's structured in a way that really raises factory workers. There's not much creative thinking and learning and independence in school. We're raised to do a certain way. Study this, you'll do well on the test. Do your homework, you'll get a good grade. You get a good grade, you'll get into good college. You get into a good college, you'll get a diploma. You get a diploma, maybe you'll get a good job, right? Everything is structured just like that. The school system, it trains compliance, a hierarchy. And same with the workforce. When you get into a career path, you work for a big system or a big company, well, there is a hierarchy. You're being told what to do. You're being told to walk in a direction and you follow it. And you're raised to know, well, if you follow and you be a good little boy or girl, you'll get rewarded with a salary or a promotion or a raise, right? These are things that we were taught as soon as we enter preschool. So when we finally have the freedom, we finally take the leap, it feels super uncomfortable. We don't know what to do about it. Many people would rather stay stuck than lead. And listen, I've owned my own business now for over 6 years. In the beginning, it felt very awkward because I didn't know who to answer to. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. A lot of it is figuring out on your own. There is a lot of time that passes, and it's very hard to make the right decisions, the right choices, and you don't know what to do with it. Even this year, when I moved my business completely digital, I had even more time on my hands. And I still battle on how I'm supposed to use it. Yes, I try to be very structured. I know the tools that I need, but when you're so used to being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, it's a big change in structure and it comes with a big responsibility. And honestly, most people deep down are afraid of that responsibility. We complain about things that we don't like and we'll talk about it for hours. We'll shout it from the rooftops. We will complain to anybody who listens, but nobody wants to step up and make change. That's the hardest part. But leadership, true freedom, it starts with self-direction. It starts with making that choice. Freedom isn't found in breaking rules necessarily. It's writing your own playbook, saying like, okay, I see what you guys are doing over here. That doesn't really jive with me. And honestly, this is something that I relate to very, very well, especially as I got into the workforce and I didn't understand it. I didn't work for one place for longer than a year. And I didn't realize it at first. I thought to myself, no, that's not the best company for me. Or, hey, there's not much growth here. Or I don't, jive with the way that they had their policies and procedures. But it wasn't about the companies. Yes, every company has its pluses and minuses. And there are many places that I worked where people were career people, that people stayed there for years, 20, 30, 40 years on top of that. There's nothing wrong with that. And those are the choices they make. But clearly, they can stay at a company like that. For me, that was never a thing. It never worked for me. Is that good or that bad? I don't know, but I could not last. And then I realized that it wasn't the company that I worked for. It wasn't how it was run. That had nothing to do with the growth, the career, the mindset. I deep down want to run my own playbook. Yes, that came with its own problems and its own issues and toughness and direction and a lot to navigate. But no matter what, I'm happier doing my own thing than doing it for somebody else. It can be super, super scary sometimes, but there is nothing more rewarding than doing what you want to do, how you want to do it, when you want to do it. And no matter what, at this point of where I am, there is absolutely no way I would work for anybody else other than me. And I do think that just comes with a mindset shift over time. Even when you make the choice of freedom, even if when you take the leap, it's still a lot to work through, to process, to wrestle with. And it's the mind shift. Freedom and discipline, they aren't opposites, they're partners. Without structure, freedom, well, it will actually turn to chaos. Without responsibility, freedom, it honestly feels meaningless. So the goal isn't to escape responsibility. It's to choose the right kind. Freedom to build, freedom to lead, freedom to evolve as a person, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, as a father, as a husband, as a son, whatever is your path, your choice. But that is the move. So to bring it back to you guys, well, where in your life are you denying your agency? What are you waiting for someone else to decide for you? Honestly, what would happen if you stopped whining and started leading? You can't build your Rome if you're waiting for someone else to hand you the blueprint. Freedom means you start where you are, and wherever that is, and however small that is, you start and you lead yourself forward. Nobody is going to save you, and that's a good thing. Thank you for tuning in. See you right here next time on The Growth Arena. Thank you for stepping into The Growth Arena today. I hope you found value in this episode and feel inspired to keep leveling up in your mindset, personal growth, and road to happiness. Remember, growth is a journey and not a destination. The most important step is the one you take today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who's ready to step into their own growth arena. And for more information and insights, connect with me on Instagram, Kaan_Celebi, or visit us on YouTube at _growth arena. Until next time, keep growing, keep pushing, and I'll see you back here on the next episode.